You're listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Dr. Alex and Megan of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you've definitely come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and best friends, we use the 4 phases of the female cycle in combination with functional lab work and mindset practices to transform the lives of the women we work with.
We also have a whole lot of fun along the way. If you're new around here, it's best to start with season 1 before jumping around and plan to roll up your sleeves. Showing up for ourselves and enjoying our lives is what good health is all about. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making changes.
Hi there, this is Alex. I'm back for part 2 of our self-identification series. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to part 1 called the knee shaker. Today is called the squirrel. And really the goal of this mini series, these are shorter episodes, is a lead up to our 5-day challenge, the effortless brain-based habit change challenge. So we are doing things completely different this time. We do a habit challenge twice a year. But just like I said in part 1, the last 2 years have required a lot of change from people. Some of it's been good, some of it hasn't been good. Some of it's been elective, some of it has been a necessity. And we looked around and we said, we want to help people transform in the least trying hard, efforting, struggle as possible, because you'll hear in a lot as we go through these 7 patterns of people that we see, the kind of patterns that people fall into. You can fall into one or more of these. Often one will be pretty obvious, and then we can have secondary ones. And Megan and I have at some point been all of these, right? And it doesn't really, there's no shame or guilt in that, as we'll talk about. It just is what it is. And the whole point is that we want to understand our patterns. We want to know who we're being and the things that we're thinking, doing, feeling that are keeping us from achieving the goals that we want, right? The outcomes that we're not getting that are getting us all frustrated and bitter and worked up and all that, right? So to overcome that, part of it is understanding who you are. And we talk about that in the term of identity. And part of that is authenticity. Identity is who you decide to be. Authenticity is saying, who am I now? Who have I been? And how does this inform where I'm going, right? And the authenticity really needs courage to look at ourselves. So if you're going through this mini series and you have the courage to do this and really stop and ask yourself, which one of these am I falling into? Who can I relate to here the most? When you go into the challenge, then all of those actions that you take, the outflow will be so much easier. You'll know what you're dealing with. You know what's holding yourself back, and it'll be so much easier to pick the correct strategies, the types of habits, the decision making that goes into that to actually move things forward in your life. Very, very, very important. So I applaud you that you're here. This is not easy. This is where people are like, I feel a little called out. That's okay. Because when you're brave enough to do that, it says something about who you are. So even when you feel uncomfortable, I want you to ask, the fact that I'm still here and I'm still doing that, who am I being there? And how do I feel about that? Because I'm guessing if you're really honest with yourself, right, that authenticity is, yeah, it feels uncomfortable, but I'm damn proud that I'm willing to do this work because I know what I want. I know who I want to be. I know how I want to impact my children, my family, my business, my clients, my, loved ones, right? It's rare. So I hope that you celebrate yourself. In the meantime, let's talk about the squirrel. And by the way, the link to sign up for the challenge, zestyginger.com/habit, is also going to be in the show notes. You will definitely want to grab the workbook when you get signed up for that. It'll just be sent directly to you because when you turn that in on the 18th of September, you could win the $500 prize. And there's another little bonus that we're going to surprise people with. But that is how that's going to work. And all you have to do is listen to the 5 days and fill out the workbook. We have made it as least amount of effort for you as possible because, quite frankly, we know everybody's stretched thin. And we think this is the best way to do it. These are resources that we love, right? And they help us a lot when we're struggling. So we're going to teach them to you. All right, so the squirrel. The squirrel is often kind of an outflow of a little bit of the knee shakers that many people feel dysregulated in their central nervous system. There's a lot of that high energy but not good energy, like anxious energy, driving behaviors. And that anxious energy is set up by the thoughts, the beliefs, the emotions, and the actions that someone who identifies with the squirrel is doing, right? And the hallmark of the squirrel is really having the same problems over and over. And that really means that you're experiencing the thought of, I dealt with this already, or I thought I dealt with this already, or something to that extent like, oh my God, how is this coming up again? The squirrel is someone who ends up back where they started often. And another part of a clue that how you'll know that you're falling into the squirrel pattern of being and behaving is that you're always kind of looking for the real root cause, right? And this is where we see a lot in health. This is where people go down, is it Lyme? Is it mold? Is it trauma? Is it this, right? And along they go, picking up a lot of times diagnoses. And sometimes they're not very helpful ones, like mixed connective tissue disorder, right? And they're like, I don't know what to do with that. I know I don't feel good. I know my muscles hurt. I know I don't have energy. I know I don't ovulate. But there's just, what is the actual crux of the situation? What is the root cause? And that is always changing. For those of you who have been around for a little while, when you think of Megan's mold story, you can kind of hear some components of that, or me and early fertility story, right? When you listen to like season 1, season 2 of this podcast a long time ago, you can hear that this is where we're at. And that is why Megan, at some point, with the mold, she was very clear that, like, I know the root cause. I'm not going to allow myself to keep searching for it. But this comes up a lot. And that means that over-researching, if you're spending money on all these health books, all of these inner child books, if you're listening to health podcasts, basically you've become like your own therapist and health coach and all this because you spend all your free time learning enough stuff to try to fix the problems that you think you have. So there's always kind of more problems that you're finding on, now it's trauma, but there's big T trauma and there's little T trauma, and that is reading, and that's really creating my central nervous system dysfunction, and that is what's, round and round we go. And so we start to bounce around from concept to concept, which is kind of like, oh, look, the squirrel, right? And that's where the name comes from. And a lot of times is that someone that is trying to find the root cause is essentially beginning to ask the question of, how do I find the right expert who can tell me that, and then I can fit whatever thing they have, right? So whatever plan they have, if I pick the right fit, then I can just slap their plan on. It'll work, and then I'll get better. Life will get better. I'll hit that goal. My business will take off. Right? That's why people join program after program after program in business, and they're like, I still don't have clients. And essentially, we start to get into a thing where because we're not standing in our own power and authority from that level, we do get swept away with the current. And that creates a scenario where a lot of times someone who's identifying with the squirrel is saying yeses when they really mean no's in life, right? Hey, see this provider and they recommend keto again, and that person's like, I already did keto, and I didn't ovulate for a while, and I didn't have my period, but like this person knows, so yeah, I'll do the keto. It feels terrible to me, and I can't go out with friends, and I cry because I'm hungry and I don't know what to eat, but yeah, I'll do it, right? The problem that leads to the squirrel is that because it's not well matched, because it feels so crummy, when you can't go out to eat with the people you love, you can't enjoy the same stuff, then essentially that's why you jump ship. The squirrel phenomenon is essentially, it says, I can't sustain this. It's not in alignment with the wholeness of who I am and how I want to live my life. I don't want to eat that way. I don't want to cook that way. I don't want to be in the kitchen that much. I don't want to be reading these books. I don't want to be doing this, right? I'm going to 4 chiropractor's appointments every week. All of these things begin to really dictate a lot of the actions, and that's how people can spend a lot of money. The people that are identifying with the squirrel often say, I have put tons of thousands of dollars into this thing, and here I am. I'm still kind of in the same place. And the squirrel can be very costly. Being the squirrel can be very costly. Some of these other ones we shut down. Some of the other patterns that people do is you won't go for anything. But the squirrel's not that, and most of the time your bank account and finances can take a hit, which is where Meg and I really talk about, like, when someone's in alignment with it and the plan is in place, someone who can stick with that plan will spend way less money because they originally took the time to identify what was going on, figure out how to make everything customized for them, pick what works for them, try things, and verify that it's actually in alignment and is going to work for them long term. Those are the people that end up actually financially coming out on top and not having the supplement graveyards, the stack of half-read books, and all of those other things that happen. Right, so that is a big one. That's a really, really big one that I believe is a very common pattern for people to fall into. And the second one can be a very frustrating place to get in. And if you're identifying with that, absolutely go sign up for the challenge. We're going to talk directly we're talking to all of these, but because this happens so often, this is for you. So go get signed up, zestyginger.com/habit. We will see you back on the podcast for the rest of this series. And then on September 12th, the challenge will kick off. And we are so excited about it. We'll see you there.
Thanks for coming out to hang with us on the podcast. It is our goal to transform the way women are treated in healthcare. And we need your help. We need your help to get the word out. We have a lofty goal of 1 million downloads. And we know that as this podcast grows, we're going to be able to reach more women, get more amazing speakers for you, and bring the most cutting-edge information.
If you found these podclasses helpful, please take a moment to text 5 women you know the link to the series. We appreciate your help so much. Can't wait to see you next time.